Getting it wrong and putting it right. Part 1, the diagnosis. I rebuild miniature steam engines commercially. This was an interesting example from 10 years ago. Getting it wrong just means that was the way it arrived, and the rest is self-explanatory as I put it right. After 3 days, my cold is now subsiding. It's a bit strange. Day 1, very sore throat. Day 2, very sore chest. And day 3, a head cold and a runny nose. It's odd really. I thought that the common cold was supposed to last 10 days, but I managed to kill it in 3. I put it down to being sat in a recording studio control room with many bands over many years, and at any given time at least one band member would have been ill, and it sort of built up my immunity. I'm not saying this is the reason, it's just a theory. That's enough about me. I'm just pleased that I can speak again. This series is all about a twin Victoria with some serious problems. On with the show. As an overview, the engineering standard's pretty good. The parts are very well made and quite well finished. All the tool marks have been removed, and it has the makings of a very good engine. But having said that, I've not been inside the engine yet. I'm hoping that the internal parts of the engine look as well as the external parts. The main steam inlet is a bit of a bizarre construction. It's far too long, and it's not threaded far enough down into the T-piece. This is an easy fix. I'll get to that in due course. Either way, I'll be setting up each side of the engine individually before I pipe them together with a common steam inlet pipe. The flywheel grooves are a little bit chattery, but this is quite a difficult thing to machine on a small lathe. I might have a look at that in due course. This is 2 standard flywheels for a Victoria ganged together. When I rotate this flywheel, and do bear in mind there's only one side of the engine fastened to it, there's a really bad tight spot. No matter what I do, no matter where I move the bed plate, it's got a tight spot. So this will need looking into. There is a possibility that the crankshaft is bent. Already I think I'm committed to pulling this engine right down to its component parts and starting again. Just look at the crosshead. This is a joke. There are clearly packing washers underneath the crosshead top guide bar. So this leads me to believe that maybe the cylinder is not in line with the crosshead. And the noise would be unbelievable if the engine was actually running with the crosshead this slack, not to mention the fact it's a twin, so there are 2 crossheads that would be clacking in unison. I've turned the engine around, and you can see here that the crank web's not the right way around at all. Someone's taken the trouble with this engine to taper the guide bars, and it looks quite nice. They've made a bit of a mistake by drilling the lower guide bar. This is all simple stuff though, and very easy to rectify. The play on the crosshead at this side of the engine makes the other side look okay, and you can clearly see washers underneath both ends of the slide bar. This is no good at all, and as I said earlier, I'm quite concerned about this. At this stage, as a rough guess, I would think that the slide bars are not in the right place to start with. Other things on this engine are pretty good. The brackets that hold the cylinders are very well made, and the cylinders seem to be quite well machined externally. Can't comment until I get inside them to see what the bores are like. It looks to me like the builder of this engine actually had some skill, but lost his way during the build. I see this quite a lot. People seem to get fed up of building engines and rush the last parts, start off very well, then mess up at the end. When it comes to fitting the parts together that you've made for an engine, if the parts aren't made well enough, then the builder's going to have to bodge it when he puts the engine together. Have a look at this, you'll see what I mean. I somehow get the impression on this engine that more than one builder was probably involved, because the meticulous, painstaking finish on the cylinders is not duplicated on the main bearings, and they're not even split. Split main bearings make it possible to adjust the main bearings to take up any wear, and that's what's shown on the original Stuart drawing. I'm not really going to cover fully pulling the engine from together in one video, but I need to have a closer look. So I've removed one side of the engine, and I can already see some ultraviolence on the eccentric. This will need looking at. I would think there's something a bit wrong there, or maybe the builder just lost his temper, I don't know. My first findings show that the eccentric is quite firmly stuck on this shaft. It must be a tight fit, so I'll have to look at that. Have a quick look at the baseboard. It's pretty rough really. I think maybe a new one may be in order. I'd just like to say to prospective steam engine builders, never ever use doll's house wallpaper to cover your baseboard. As you can see here, the oil gets straight into it and makes it look horrendous, as well as making it look like a doll's house roof. So I'm going to dismantle it completely. First of all, I need a receptacle to put the parts in so I don't lose them. The first thing to take off is the linkage to the valve spindle. I want to test something with this valve spindle, so I'll just remove this linkage first, and I'll put the pin in a safe place, in the plastic box. What I'm going to do now is use some compressed air in the valve chest to see what happens when I move the valve spindle, and this is not encouraging. There's a very limp movement in one direction only, and the piston rod does not return. There is something definitely wrong in the valve chest here. From my experience, if all the nuts and bolts are loose, there's a problem with the engine. Someone's been here before me trying to sort it out. And these are all very loose. Everything's almost a finger-type fit, except the two vertical studs that hold the crosshead in place. These needed a bit of attention. Right, that's those removed. The cylinder's unbolted and should come away easily. Time now to have a look at the cylinder. As I've said earlier, it's quite well machined externally, and I'm quite surprised it's not working, but we'll find out what's happening. I'm taking off the mountings, and I'm going to take off the front cylinder cover. Behind the mounting plate, the cylinder cover is held in place with just a couple of small countersunk screws, and thankfully these came away quite easily. Sometimes this is not the case. Once all the fastenings were removed, I thought the cylinder cover would just fall off, but as I said earlier, this is quite a well-machined cylinder and it's a good fit. I had to use a knife blade just to persuade it. Once the seal was broken, the cylinder cover came away quite easily. So now I can have a look at the piston. Aha, the wrong type of O-ring. It would seem that the person who built this engine did not realise that you cannot use ordinary neoprene O-rings where steam is concerned. This is the problem though, not the piston. The port face is damaged, and what I do notice about it, which is a little odd for a Stuart Victoria, I built one many years ago, and the inlets were cored all the way through to the cylinder, which makes the casting very easy to work with. On this engine they're not, and someone has attempted to drill the ports using a very fine drill from the port in the cylinder itself to the inlet port on the valve chest face. So we have a major problem. It's impossible to drill from a cored-in port inside the cylinder to a cored-in port on the valve face without the drill bursting through into the valve face itself, which has happened here. The same thing happens on the other cylinder at the other side of the engine. So I'm going to buy some new castings. That concludes episode 1. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.
Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.